My earliest memory is probably about as a 4-year-old, sitting in the balcony of a Hunter Street shul and sitting with my mother and my sister and looking down at the service and actually just listening to the wonderful melodies that were being sung. And then I would sort of stand at the balcony and watch everybody. It was very interesting.
Can you tell me about your early days when you first started teaching at Beth Jacob?
Well, that actually wasn't my early days. That was when Rabbi Wiener had come to shul. He came in 1963, and the shul decided in 1964 in the fall that they would start a Hebrew school. And Anita Wiener was the teacher of Hebrew language, and they asked me to teach history, music, and folk dancing. And it was an amazing year. They had a group of their families from 18 10-year-old girls. And it was the most amazing class because they were eager to learn. And of course, Anita Wiener was a wonderful person. And they just absorbed everything like sponges. And we used to go down to the social hall and do folk dancing, and they used to prepare history projects. And it was a lovely class.
Fay Schmerling, she came to teach. My class was her first Hebrew school class, and she was wonderful. I had a crush on her, and they were just really good times. She had such a nice way about her, and she was so enthused about teaching us. Because in fact, even though we'd all gone to Hebrew school for many years, we really didn't know a lot because we misbehaved all the time. But Fay inspired, I know, not just me, but the other kids, and all of a sudden we were really reading Hebrew and really getting into the stories and what the real history was behind it.
That year I became engaged to Matt, and the girls knew that, and it was Amy Back who created this beautiful little, but I should have brought it, it's a duck, and she did it in ceramics and polished it and presented it to me on behalf of all the children on my engagement. It was a wonderful memory, and I actually still have it sitting on my shelf, and I did meet.
How many years have you taught in Beth Jacob Hebrew School?
It's probably well over 40 years, well, probably 45 by now. Because I started as a student, and then when I got married, of course, I had my children, so then I stopped it for a period of time. And then I've come back and I continue to teach today. So it's been a lot of years, actually wonderful years. It's amazing, actually.
How do you stay fresh?
Well, the interesting thing is in teaching, every class you have is totally different. Even if you are teaching some of the same subjects, the children are responding differently. And I have to say, today's children are not the same. They have a lot of technical things that they can deal with. They're not as skilled, I don't believe, in using texts. So it's a different approach. And as you know, our school now has less days than we once had. So that changes how you teach, because you want to come off teaching and having the children learn something specific, and so you have to plan exactly what it is you would like them to learn and utilize. So that's how you stay fresh, because I don't think in teaching anything ever stays the same.
Can you say something about Beth Jacob's move to egalitarianism, and from your perspective?
From my perspective, I found it to be a positive thing, because as a young woman, as a child and a young woman, I was learning things that we should be able to do, and yet we were not. So when it came to the point, let's say in my younger days, where we did not have, let's say, the honor of an aliyah or being counted or whatever, I always felt that we were missing something. So I was pleased about it. I mean, it was a gradual process in this shul, very gradual, but I think that was a good thing, because it gave people the opportunity also to learn. And the other aspect was, not everybody or every woman necessarily wants to be participating, and that's okay too. So when that happened, like, because when Sisterhood was very active, I became involved with planning some of the program, and especially in Ben Silverberg's years, when he was here, he started having a class in Haftorah and also in Torah. So at that time, I actually learned the Haftorah Trup and the Torah Trup, because I'd never learned that before. And so he, at one point, had his tonsils removed while he was teaching school. I don't know if you know, he was here for 4 years. And he was a very young cantor. He was 23. Had these classes, so I learned these things. And Matt also attended this Haftorah class. So there were a few of us. And the actual person to do the first Haftorah from learning his trup was Matt. I didn't do mine till a few years later. But Cantor Ben Silverberg had to have his tonsils out. And after his tonsils were out, he was not allowed to sing for, I think it was 3 weeks. And he had students that he was teaching for B'nai Mitzvah. So because I had learned his trup, I was able to help his students continue with their studies while this was happening. So I have to give him credit, actually, for having made me into a Haftorah, Torah teacher, etc.